What's going on, guys? It's Nick here, back on the video. Today we're going over 6 running backs that I think the industry rankings have wrong right now. It's going to be a slightly longer video than usual, so sit back, hit the like button. We'll get things started off with both Omarion Hampton and RJ Harvey. ECR has them as 5th and 6th round picks, respectively, 4 rounds in this video using a 12-team league as usual. I have them as 4th and 5th round pick. So I'm about 1 round ahead of ADP or ahead of ECR for both of them. I know people are going to hesitate that early because these two are technically not the slam dunks that Genty is. Very few prospects have ever been the slam dunk that Genty is, but I do want to reiterate just how confident I am in both of these two and really kind of go over what their ceilings could be. We'll start off with Hampton. Dobbins, Gus, Haskins, they're leaving behind 330 carries from last season, 46 targets. They're looking to replace those 376 opportunities, a lot of opportunities available on the Chargers with only Hampton and Najee. And let's be honest, some of y'all's touches are going to Najee as well. So there's plenty of opportunity here. There's like 400 opportunities for Hampton and Najee. So even if it was a 50-50 split, you're still probably getting like 200 for Hampton, but I can just promise you it's not going to be a 50-50 split. Najee has just been a volume runner throughout his career. So he's had good seasons in fantasy, right? But he's never actually been an efficient runner. He's averaged 3.9 yards per carry in his career, and extremely low 4.9 yards per target. That is not very good. It's also wild to wrap your head around. Like, I had to do like a quadruple take on this one, but the longest run of Najee Harris's career is 37 yards. The man has 1,097 carries, nearly 1,100 carries in his career. Most he's traveled on a carry, 37 yards. He's really, really good at getting 2 to 4 yards, but he struggles at getting anything beyond that. Compare that to someone like Omarion Hampton. Hampton is fantastic at not only making sure he falls forward. That's the one thing about Najee is like very few times he gets like 1 yard, which again, that's not like, pat on the back, nice job getting a yard, but he's really good at being like, okay, I'm going to turn like 2 yards into 3, but that's all he does is he takes these really small gains and turns them into also small gains, but not very big gains, right? Good at getting that 2 to 4 yard range. Hampton can still do that. That is not something that's like, oh, Najee's great at. Hampton can't do it. Hampton can obviously do that as well. But Hampton also has the speed to run away from people along with the size to run through them. I saw a wild stat from Grant Barfield where 90% of Omarion Hampton's missed tackles forced were a result of him either running through or running away from a defender. I don't think that stat exists right now for NFL running backs, but I would take a wild guess and say that 0% of Najee Harris's forced missed tackles were because of running away from someone last season. He just has no juice. There's very little reason to give Najee meaningful touches. I also want to point out Hampton, not only great as a pass catcher, but amazing at pass protection. He's probably the best pass protection running back in this year's draft class. So it is extraordinarily likely, I would put the odds well over like 85% that Omarion Hampton is going to be the 2-minute back, going to be the 3rd down back. We didn't even see Najee Harris have that role in Pittsburgh, especially since we had Jalen Warren there. So there's just no reason to think that any sort of meaningful touches are going to Najee Harris this season. And I guess my argument for Hampton really just boils down to the fact that he's better in every aspect. Like I was kind of pointing out earlier that like Najee's one really good characteristic is that he does fall forward. So he can turn 2 yards into 3, maybe sometimes 4 yards, but he doesn't really do anything else. He doesn't create yards that are not there. He doesn't run away from people. He doesn't make people miss. Like he doesn't do anything else. He's not good in the receiving game. He's just good at falling forward and good at holding up to a lot of touches. But so is Omarion Hampton. And he adds all these other aspects to the game as well. So unless Omarion Hampton is gassed, he should be the one that's on the field. And realistically, there's like, let's say 10 to 15. If you want to be like super liberal with it, 15 running backs. But we're going to say about 10 to 15 running backs that even have a chance of being featured this season where there's not like mass injuries to the running back room. And Hampton is part of that. I would say, we'll say 12 as like an average. He's part of that 12. There's a very good chance he surpasses 300 opportunities this season. He's on a team with an elite offensive line. They are favored in 13 of 17 games right now. The Chargers play the second most dome games, so we're not super worried about a bunch of cold weather, windy, rainy, low scoring games where there's not many touchdowns go around for the Chargers. They're going to be in high scoring games. They're going to be winning football games a lot. That's great, for getting a ton of carries in the second half of games. They're inside domes week 16 and 17. I could see Hampton, being a late first round pick next season. I could 100% see that late first round. We're looking at that 8 through 12 range. We're gotta lock in Omarion Hampton because you're getting over 320 touches, work in the receiving game on a great team, great offensive line. Everything points to this being an amazing pick. And right now, industry is ranking him outside the top 50 players. That feels criminal in redraft. I lumped Hampton kind of into the same take here. I could have easily just separated the two, and you can pretend like I'm separating the two, but I wanted to lump them together kind of because I see a lot of similarities between the two, not in the same style of football player, more just in terms of why we should like them in fantasy and maybe why they're not being ranked as highly as they should be. Both are on offenses that I do expect to be elite this season, which, as I said before, is really important for high-end fantasy success. Again, teams that win football games have a lot of carries go to running backs because when you're winning, you're up late and your, pass rate expectation is going to be lower. If you're winning by a couple scores, you're not going to be airing the ball out 80% of the time, right? You're going to be running the ball at a higher rate than normal. So teams that find themselves ahead have a lot of carries open up for the running backs. And plus, if you're ahead, you're probably scoring touchdowns. It's just fantastic when you're a lead running back on a good team. Just a fact in fantasy, right? It's not the other way around. So they have that going for them, both of them. They're both stepping into backfields that are just wide open for touches. They both have head coaches that have coached elite fantasy producing running backs in the past. And I think the most important in my eyes from an ADP and a value perspective is that they're both near the top of a rookie running back class that I don't think the general public fully comprehends just how good it is, because we're coming off a year where there were 19 running backs drafted, and aside from Bucky Irving and Tyron Tracy Jr., all of them busted. It was a terrible running back class last season. Some of those backs we viewed, I don't want to say highly, everyone knew going into last season it was not going to be a good class, but there were some backs that we were a little bit excited about their potential for, and basically all of them, it was 17 of 19 completely busted. We'll see what they can do in the future. But I think the point is the public has a very short-term memory. And so the public is more going to grasp onto that outcome, saying, oh man, we had these rookie running backs last season. None of them really turned out. It was only guys that we saw in free agency broke out. I don't want to spend a high pick on a rookie running back because I've seen them bust in the past. But I can promise you that Harvey, Hampton, they're by far the best running backs on their team. Harvey in particular, Estime. I was excited about Estime, about McLaughlin last season because I thought there was a chance that they would trade away Javonte Williams because they should have probably done it last season to gain more value from it. I thought that was a possibility. You would have had McLaughlin, Estime on a good team as, splitting in kind of a duo there. And I thought there was at least opportunity for an increase in value from where you were getting them, which was around 15, 16, 17 in drafts, right? Just to return some sort of value from there. Thought that was possible. Didn't trade them. All of them ended up being terrible last season. But the whole point was that there was a lot of opportunity on this team. And again, make no mistake, Harvey is so much better than McLaughlin and Estime. He's going to earn Javonte's 191 touches. He's also going to eat into the workload of the two. And I'm also confident in projecting more volume this season for that Denver backfield. I mentioned it in the video. I don't remember if it was Friday or Wednesday, but no playoff team gave their running backs fewer carries than Denver last season. That's not some staple of a Sean Payton offense that you never give your running back touches. It's just because the running backs were terrible as pure runners. And so they couldn't rely on them late in games. They did not want to run the ball late in games because they knew how inefficient their running backs were on the ground. They're like, well, why don't we just throw it? That is not going to happen this season. Harvey is way better than Javonte was, what McLaughlin and Estime are. That's going to be evident very, very quickly. I am not going to hesitate in drafting either Hampton or Harvey this season, and their presence alone, I mean, along with other rookie running backs in this class, but especially these two, if you're going to actually be able to get them in the middle rounds of drafts, that makes me very excited because wide receiver falls off quicker than you think it does this season. And so if you're able to load up on wide receiver, maybe get one of Brock Bowers or Trey McBride, and you can still pair them with these running backs that I think are going to crush this season in the middle rounds. We're starting to see very clear draft strategy, very optimal draft strategy kind of open up for us in the middle rounds. I think Hampton, Harvey are just great, great values for now until they probably rise by ADP. Next up, Tony Pollard. ECR has him at 64th overall. That's the early 6th round. I have him 79th overall. That is the mid 7th round. 9 running backs had at least 300 touches last season. 7 of them scored at least 15.9 half PPR points per game. Pollard scored 11.3. He was 9th in total touches among running backs, 22nd in half PPR points per game. And that's my main concern with drafting him this early. I do think that he's going to maintain the starting job over Spears, but that needs to happen, and Spears can't eat into his workload at all. Spears really struggled to stay healthy last season. He missed over a month of the season. He wasn't super involved in the games he did play. And since they didn't really have any other competent backups, Pollard racked up 301 touches compared to only 139 for all other running backs combined. I do believe that they wanted to get Spears more involved last season, get him more touches. But when you're constantly injured, meaning you're also not getting reps in practice, the staff is just not going to trust you as much in a game. Also, it's a little bit concerning to see the value split with and without Spears last season. Remember, on the full season, he was 22nd in half PPR points per game, but that counts 5 weeks that Spears was out. In the 11 games that Spears and Pollard both played in last season, Pollard only averaged 10.5 half PPR points per game. That puts him on pace to finish 35th in half PPR points per game on the season. And since we can't really predict injuries, our expectation should be that that occurs, right? Our expectation should be that Spears doesn't get hurt for a good chunk of the season again, that Pollard stays healthy for the whole year, and that exactly what happened last year happens again. Our expectation should be a general split of health amongst the both of them. And if when that happened, he was 35th in half PPR points per game, we've got this rookie running back class coming in that's going to be way better. So value at running back is deeper than it was last season. I don't know. Like, I guess the take is basically that people think the Titans are going to be a lot better this season than they were last season, and that's going to help Pollard. He's going to score a ton more touchdowns. And I agree they're probably going to be better than last season, but they're also projected to finish 29th in scoring this year. They finished 27th in scoring last season. So if you think they're going to be a ton more productive on offense this year, there's plenty of money to be made in Vegas for you. But if we're, trusting the market, or trusting what the market is saying right now, it's that they're still going to remain as a bottom end team in scoring this season. And I think people are probably over projecting the increase in production that Cam Ward is going to have for them this season. At least as a rookie this year, they're probably not going to be even a league average team in production. That makes it a fade that I'm pretty willing to make. Again, even if you got an injury to Spears, you would need that to happen and for the Titans to also be more productive than the market is expecting for him to really burn you an ADP of the running back 23. I think it's less likely than average that both of those occur. And so I would rather just aim for ceiling in a different spot. The 10 players that ECR has ranked directly after Tony Pollard: DeAndre Swift, TJ Hawkinson, Jordan Addison, Jalen Waddle, Pacheco, Travis Hunter, George Pickens, Judy, Harvey, and Judkins. I don't think every single player on that list is going to vastly outperform Tony Pollard, but there are a lot of high ceiling players on that list. And I'm just not willing to take Pollard while all of them are still on the board with how many things need to go right for him to just achieve the value he's at right now by ECR. No, I'm going to take the high ceiling for a ton of those other players over him. Next up, we have Jordan Mason. ECR has him 124th overall. That is the early 11th round. My rankings have him 86th overall. That is the early 8th round. Last season, among 46 running backs with at least 100 rush attempts, Mason was second in explosive run rate, third in yards after contact per attempt, sixth in missed tackles forced per attempt. He was the running back 5 overall in fantasy through the first 5 weeks of the season before injuries really just derailed his season. But then he signed a 2-year, $10.5 million contract with the Vikings this offseason. That includes $7 million in fully guaranteed money. They've also been transparent as to why they went after Jordan Mason. They struggled running the ball up close last season. Aaron Jones, 67% of the team's carries inside the 10-yard line, 70% of team's carries inside the 5. Those numbers ranked 6th and 7th in the league. So he was given the vast majority of the volume. He was a very featured running back when they got inside the green zone, inside the goal line area last season. Again, red zone's 20, green zone 10, goal line inside the 5. What did he do with those carries? Shield your eyes. If you are an Aaron Jones fan, among the 17 running backs with at least 24 carries inside the 10-yard line last season, only one gained fewer than 34 yards. It was Aaron Jones gaining 8 total yards. On his 12 carries inside the 5-yard line, he gained -4 yards. Obviously, that was the worst among running backs with that many carries. Not good, right? Like, he was really, really bad at converting yardage, and he was the worst. I probably don't need to tell you, but he was the worst among running backs with those carries at converting touchdowns in those areas as well. So when that happens, when you come off just a horrible, horrible year at the goal line, then the team's like, yeah, that was bad. Like, we did not do good at the goal line. They also go out and sign a 223-pound running back, says that he can bring something to the table that they didn't have last season in terms of converting at the goal line. You better believe Jordan Mason is going to be the goal line back for the Minnesota Vikings this season. And again, he was fantastic. He was amazing as a pure runner last year. It's not like, they're going to march down the field with Aaron Jones and they're like, all right, Jordan, here's the only thing you're good at is carries inside the 5. No, and Aaron Jones turns 31 in December. Fair to wonder if he's already kind of starting that decline in his career. Remember the stats I just mentioned with Jordan Mason, 2nd in explosive run rate, 3rd in yards after contact per attempt, 6th in missed tackles forced per attempt. Aaron Jones was 36th in explosive run rate, 17th in yards after contact per attempt, 40th in missed tackles forced per attempt. There is a very real chance that Jordan Mason is just a better pure runner at this point of their respective careers and will also be the one they use at the goal line. And if that's the case, how on earth are you going to rank Jordan Mason as an 11th round pick in redraft leagues on the Minnesota Vikings? It's going to be a good team. I don't care what you think about J.J. McCarthy. This is going to be a good offense, no matter who their quarterback is, to have the goal line back, to have what could be their best pure runner in the double-digit rounds. That is absolutely crazy to me. After Jordan Mason, we have Rhamondre Stevenson. ECR has him at 100th overall. That is the early 9th round. My rankings have him 134th overall. That is the early 12th round. The concern with Stevenson is obviously Travion Henderson. Patriots drafted Henderson with the 6th pick in round 2. And he's not only a highly explosive runner, but he's also great in the receiving game. Stevenson has always been like their pass catching back. He's always been solid as a pass catcher, but in terms of efficiency, he really hasn't been great. 6.1, 6.3, 5.1 yards per reception over the last 3 years, all of those well below average. We've seen his yards per carry drop the last 2 years as well, down to 4.0 2 years ago, 3.9 last year. And in terms of the advanced metrics we've kind of been talking about, 38th in explosive run rate, 32nd in yards after contact per attempt, 30th in missed tackles forced per attempt. It's also a little bit concerning that he's not really breaking tackles anymore. As a rookie, he was pretty decent, 8.3 rush attempts per broken tackle, but then it's 8.8 rush attempts per broken tackle, then 14.2 2 years ago, 14.8 last year. Like every single year, he's just breaking tackles at a lower and lower rate. Now, I don't think that Henderson is like a super locked in prospect. I feel amazing about Genty, about Hampton, about Harvey. I do have some concerns about the vision for Henderson. He's at times a very boom bust runner, but the simple fact is there that like he's going to be stealing receiving work, and he just nukes Stevenson's value to the point where he's mostly a pure handcuff. There's no world where they spend that early of a pick on a player like Henderson, who they know they just want to get touches to because of how explosive he is. That was a big lack of the Patriots offense last season, that they had no explosiveness. So even when they were kind of driving down the field, it takes so many positive plays to get into the red zone that at some point you're not going to get there and you're forced to punt or kick a field goal. You need those players who have explosiveness. And so that's why they went after explosive players in the draft this season. Henderson being there, it crushes him. It crushes Stevenson's value. And this is not the point of the draft where I want a pure handcuff. Like there's no way you'll ever be able to use Stevenson in fantasy while TreVeyon Henderson is healthy. And that is what a handcuff is. In the early 9th round, like I'm not that much of a homer, right? You guys know I'm a Patriots fan. I'm not taking Stevenson in the single-digit rounds when he's a backup running back on New England, not projected to be the best team in the NFL this season. So there are far better picks you can make in that range. That's why I have him as a 12th round pick. That makes a little bit more sense as a handcuff, not in the early 9th round. Next up, we have Jaydon Blue. ECR has him 161st overall. That's the mid-14th round. My rankings have him 127th overall, mid-11th round. This one really just comes down to just potential outcomes, range of outcomes, right? I honestly have no idea who's going to win the starting job for the Cowboys this season. I can promise you it's not Phil Maffa or Deuce Vaughn, but one of Javonte Williams, Miles Sanders, Jaydon Blue is going to come out on top. And that doesn't mean that one of them is going to be, a featured running back getting 350 touches, right? But one of them is going to be the most fantasy-friendly running back on that team, the 1A to someone's 1B, or potentially a 1 to 2. Again, we don't exactly know what's going to happen. No one's going to hit 350 touches, but someone is going to be someone we are trusting every week in fantasy. My gut is still saying that Javonte Williams is the most likely to win the job, but that it's super close. ECR, on the other hand, is saying, oh, Javonte Williams wins by a mile. Like ECR has Javonte Williams 115th, Blue 161st, Miles Sanders 253rd. Like, I don't know. I just don't really see it that way. We made excuses for Javonte Williams in 2023 because, he was in the year coming off a major knee injury. That's why he was averaging 3.6 yards per carry, 4.9 yards per reception, was forcing missed tackles at like the lowest rate in the league. That makes sense, right? Maybe it takes him 2 years to come off the injury. Maybe he looks better last season. But he did the same thing last year. Yards per reception bumped up to 6.7, but that's still below average. Averaged 3.7 yards per carry. He was 40th in explosive run rate, 35th in missed tackles forced per attempt, 43rd in yards after contact per carry. It was probably his worst season as a pro last year, which is concerning because the Broncos were good, right? They were a good team last year. It wasn't like he was on a terrible offense. Maybe the change in scenery is going to be good for him going to Dallas, but he hasn't really shown us anything these last 2 years to indicate that he should be the clear favorite to win this job. Compare that to Jaydon Blue, who did fall to the 5th round in the draft, but my model likes him a lot more than NFL teams seem to. It actually has him right after Tootin as a prospect. It likes him more than Woody Marks, Cam Scatterboo, Jerquez Hunter, who were all picked at least 30 picks ahead of him in the NFL draft. Jaydon Blue never saw elite volume in college, but he was highly efficient when he did get touches. He forced missed tackles at a really strong rate. He was also great in the receiving game. So he's the type of player that if he hits, he's got the skill set to be highly productive in fantasy. Those are the late round dart throws we want to be attacking. If Jaydon Blue actually wins the job as the 1A in Dallas, then you're starting him every single week, regardless of matchup in fantasy. And given how Javonte, Miles Sanders have played in recent years, it's not the long shot that the market seems to think that it is. So you should definitely be attacking him in drafts, and especially, honestly, in dynasty rookie drafts, he goes pretty darn late for someone who next year, if he actually ends up being the 1A on this team, there's no competition behind him right now. Like, I don't know. There's a lot of upside to him, not only season long, but in dynasty as well. I just think ADP is far too low for the potential opportunity on this offense. So those are 6 running backs that I think ECR has wrong right now. If you want to see exactly where I have every single player ranked, you can do that at my website, thefantasyfootballadvice.com, and I'm updating the rankings every single day through week 1. That'll do it for this one, though. Please leave a like if you made it this far. Please subscribe to the channel if you are new here. But I'll see you all on Monday for another episode of Mock Draft Monday.